Hello there, thanks a lot for coming by PosterCentral.com's video blog today. I'm Pete Howard, and in the poster collecting world the unthinkable has happened. A Quarrymen concert poster has been discovered, the only Quarrymen concert poster that's ever been found. Wow, and it's from the summer of 1959. So this is a Beatles concert poster from the 1950s. Advertising the musical talents of John Lennon, Paul McCartney, George Harrison, and Ken Brown. Yep, that's right. Those were the four Quarrymen at this moment. Now this was a full year before the Beatles would enlist a drummer in the name of Pete Best for their sojourn to Hamburg for the first time. But here you have it, essentially a Beatles concert poster from when John Lennon was 18 years old, Paul was 17, and George was just 16 years old. And best of all, it's from the Casbah Club, which can definitely stake its claim as birthplace of the Beatles, as well as or better than anywhere else in the world. I mean, Paul McCartney himself has been quoted as saying, "People know about the cavern, but the Casbah was the place where all that started. We helped paint it. We looked upon it as our personal club." Oh man, and here's the Quarrymen concert poster from that club. Got to take a deep breath here, just amazing. A 4-word concert poster, just unbelievable. Let me pull in for a closer look. As you can see, it's stenciled in by hand. The Quarrymen, every Saturday. 2 words in black and 2 words in red on very faded blue parchment paper. Take a look at all those rough edges and everything, just dripping with authenticity. Obviously it's very fragile after all of these years. It does measure 15 by 21 inches. And speaking of authenticity, there is no need to worry about that for a second. This came directly from the Best family. It's not mine. I'm just honored and privileged to be able to blog it for you today. And speaking of the Best family, let's go ahead and pay tribute right away to the woman who started and ran the club and may very well have made this poster. And here she is, Mona Best, the mother, of course, of future Beatles drummer Pete Best. And she started this club, she called it the Casbah Coffee Club, in the cellar of her house, as a members-only club for her 2 sons and their friends to gather and listen to records and eat hot dogs and drink espresso coffee and just generally stay out of trouble. Of course, there was no liquor license there at all. It was located in the West Derby section of Liverpool, and the good news for modern-day fans is that it remains completely intact, and it's a major tourist attraction in Liverpool, right alongside the birthplaces and childhood homes of John Lennon and Paul McCartney. In fact, here's a picture of the Casbah Club from the outside, although basically it's underground, isn't it, being in the cellar? So what you have there is just this magnificent 15-room house set back from the road, and that's what it looks like today. And then the reviews on TripAdvisor for visiting the Casbah are just really positive. Fans just love going there. So, this concert poster, which could also be called, a herald or a broadside or an announcement sign, almost certainly hung inside the club. Possibly near the entranceway, but certainly somewhere where a lot of people gathered. Since there's no picture of it though, with this poster in the background, all of it pretty much is speculation as to exactly where it hung. Clearly, the poster is hand stenciled, as you saw when I zoomed in keeping with a couple of other Casbah signs that have survived. I'll get to that in a second. Obviously the last word, Saturday, probably suffers the most from fading with time, as does the word men in Quarrymen. So its condition, kind of resembles, especially if you look at the bottom edge and everything, the Dead Sea Scrolls in a way. But, what else can we expect? I mean, can you just imagine how many, cigarettes were smoked close to this poster in the same room? Just, obviously indoor smoking and ciggies themselves were just fine back then. And then the fact that it was even saved and kept, rolled up in storage for decades and decades, just amazing. So obviously condition really doesn't play into it. It's just the fact that it survived is so remarkable and wonderful for collectors. Now, the Best family did publish a book about the Casbah Club, as well as Pete Best's 2 years of involvement with the Beatles. And inside this book, they picture all kinds of really fun old Casbah artifacts, such as microphones and amplifiers and stuff. But check out this page. A Casbah poster from December of 1960. So this is 15 months after the Quarrymen poster I'm showing you. And the lettering on the two posters, that stenciled font, is identical. But enough about the Beatles in the 1960s. That's such a tired, well-worn subject, isn't it? Let's return to the 1950s and the Quarrymen, where the posters are really rare. So this is pretty easily pinpointed to September of 1959, because Mona, she opened her new teenagers' social club on Saturday, August 29th, the end of August, with the Quarrymen as the last-minute replacements as the musical entertainment. Speaking of which, I guess I'd be remiss in this video to not show you at least once the Quarrymen. You've seen this, a very famous picture, the only color photo known to exist of the Quarrymen. Obviously, you've got George, John, and Paul there. And Ken Brown, yeah, there he is. Boy, an extremely temporary bit player in Beatles history. I mean, if you thought Pete Best didn't fit in well with John, Paul, and George, well, poor Ken, he was really an outcast, but just very temporary. Now, I believe there's only one photograph of those exact four people playing together, certainly during their 7 shows at the Casbah, and you've seen this picture. Here it is, a photo dominated very much by Paul singing. He was already great at singing, even in the Quarrymen days, by the way, just nailing Little Richard. So left to right there, you've got George with his back to the camera, Paul, Ken Brown, fairly grimacing as you can see, definitely looks out of place there, and then of course John. But this is it. This thing I'm holding right here, it's remarkable to think this is the photo of the band that's advertised on the ancient concert poster I'm showing you today. It's just total goosebumpy time, just crazy. So this picture, as a matter of fact, may have actually been taken in this very room, one of the main musical rooms of the Casbah Club as it looks today. In fact, if you look closely, you can see they're even displaying that photo I just showed you in the back of this very room. So after the Quarrymen did well on that opening night of August 29th, reports have actually 300 people attending, Mona went ahead and offered them a Saturday night residency for a grand total of £3, to be split among 4 guys for the entire night. Wow. And the next 4 Saturday nights, which the Quarrymen played, were all in September, so it really stands to reason this poster was made up at the beginning of that residency. Therefore September 1959, for sure I'm going to say, and probably early in the month, which also means summer of 1959. The Quarrymen only played 2 nights in October, and then it all fell apart over sort of a silly pay dispute. We say silly now, but let's, it's important to young people. Ken Brown was sick on the final, day they played in mid-October, and he couldn't play, and Mona, when it came time to pay the boys, still wanted to divide the money 4 ways, and she did. She gave Ken Brown his share, and that really ticked off John, Paul, and George. They said, "Sod this," as the English say, and walked away, and that was it. But boy, obviously some important seeds sown in musical history by their short stand here at the Casbah Club. And later that month, in October, they were actually auditioning, calling themselves Johnny and the Moondogs. So, try to find a poster by them, right? Okay, no, we'll settle for the Quarrymen in the summer of 1959. Stunning, awesome, incredible piece. Well, I'll see you again for something soon that's guaranteed to be less historic, less rare, less unbelievable. The next video will be believable, okay? Thanks for your time and see you around soon. Bye-bye.